Okay, good morning, all of you. On behalf
morning.
of Ravindra Psychotherapy Research Institute Trust, I welcome you all to this August gathering. Our focused area is learning analytics. Dr. Devarshi Mukherjee, Department of Business Management, Tripura University, will be the speaker, and Professor Subroto Saha, Department of Education, Rabindranath University, he will moderate the session.
Excuse me, sir. Sound শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
Thank you, Ritika. Ritika has submitted her PhD thesis to Rabindranath University recently, and her area of research is the flow in Rabindra Sangeet. This is our logo, and this logo reflects the three layers of consciousness. One is Murto layer, that is the seat of sensation and perception. Another one is the Rago layer, that is the feeling, emotion, memory, thinking, and their associations. So a lot of the assimilation, accommodation are basically taking place here. After that, it is the seat of harmony with surroundings, the aesthetic, and way to creativity and innovation. This layer is called the Saraswat layer. In our institute, we are following this motto, Tamosoma Jyotirgamaya. The meaning is we have to reduce the random error as well as the fixed error when we want to disseminate any research-based knowledge. We are the 5 people, the trustees. We have formed this academic trust. It is registered under Indian Trust Act. She is Meshudipta Mujumdar, Secretary and Treasurer, Dr. Rama, Dr. Subroto Basha, me, and Dr. Shitanshu Khatua. Each institute has some vision. This is our vision: self-awakening, freedom of imagination, universal peace, sustainable environment, and harmony. Now, I am presenting you the participation certificate for the short-term course, that is Introduction to Convex Alpha using Art Script, to Miss Monalisha Pattanayak and Miss Shumita Bhattacharya. They are here. I think Shumita is absent today. Monalisha is here. So Monalisha, can you say a few words about your convex alpha?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The course convex alpha using spaces and art script was really wonderful. We got so many knowledge of convex alpha. We demonstrated in our studio.
And we have not understood that is the how to compute the convex alpha, right? By using
Yes,
the
sir.
MS Excel also.
We used the digital marketing arbitrary data. So we got the 5 indicators. So 5 indicators, we use that indicators to know the convex alpha. We use the convex alpha. Last video. We also did the box plot. We got the same results.
Thank you, Monalisha.
Minimum pattern.
Okay, Monalisha, thank you. Now the participation certificate will be given to students of Monalisha Pattanayak, Urpita Bhattacharya, Sanskriti Das, Soma Mahapatro, Pooja Patro, and Anita Chakraborty, and Upasana Das. Okay, so anybody is here except Monalisha? Is anybody?
Yes, sir. I'm Sanskrit. I'm here.
Yes, Sanskriti, please you say a few words about whatever you have learned in this 5th phase of the course.
Sir, a lot of things I have learned. I learned from past phase. I have learned Froebel's theory, Erickson's social psychometrics theory, mental conflict, and Rabindra Sangeet has a 3-layer father, son, and Buddha. And also in this 5th phase, I have learned over generalization. I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now it is a time for the distribution of certificate to Rabindra Sangeet based clinical music therapy to Miss Sravani Mukherjee, Abhrodita Debnath, Dipali Roy, Upasana Das. The academic administrator is Miss Debjani Banerjee. So Debjani, please you say a few words about your course.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, all of you. The renowned personality present here. I'm Debjani Banerjee, academic assistant of Rabindra Sangeet based clinical music therapy. And I have started the course with guidance of Professor Dr. Rai 3 months ago, and 3 months certificate course. And it has been covered 5 papers. All of in them, clinical based music therapy, practical session are there. Some Rabindra Sangeet postulates are there, and there are consciousness layers discussed over there, and 5 Rabindra Sangeet song also teaches there by our renowned Rabindra Sangeet singer. And all of my participants, there are 4 participants in this course, and they have learned lots of, and they have also implemented in the clinical area. Clinical area, that means not only the patient, but also the person in our communities. So I think it is very helpful, all of us, including me also. So thank you, sir. They have completed successfully, and they have got, they have passed, and they have passed all of the examination done here, done this course. So thank you, sir, and thank you all the participants to cooperation. So that's it. That's the manner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Devjani Banerjee. Now it will be the session of oath taking. It is a professional course. So I think everybody is ready. Abhrojita, are you here? Abhrojita Devnath,
Yes, sir, I'm here. I'm here.
Deepali Roy,
Yes, sir, I'm present.
thank you. Upasana, you are also here. Savani possibly not here. So let's have the oath first. When I say I, after that, you will read the next statement. The oath taking, basically the social work, professional oath. So in front of the eminent delegates, eminent professors of the different parts of India, you are presenting your oath. This oath is your commitment to the society at large. So be careful about your oath. Without oath, we are not giving any certificate. So I am starting. I,
Dipali Roy.
Upasana Dash,
Abhrojita Devnath, student of Rabindra Sangeet based clinical music therapy.
Sanskriti Das, student of Rabindra Sangeet based psychotherapy.
Wish to
solely
consecrate my life to the service of humanity
service of humanity and to
and
social justice. I will
I,
practice
My profession.
my profession responsibly with conscious
will practice my profession
integrity,
responsibly with conscience, integrity, and
and dignity,
which are
which are
consistent with its
consistent
values,
with its values, ethical
and
principles, and
standards.
ethical
The
standards.
welfare of my client will be my
Welfare of my
first
client will be my
consideration.
first
Will
consideration.
respect the secrets which are confided
I
to
will
me even after my
respect the
professional
secrets which are
relationship with
confined
my
to me
client
even
has
after my
ended.
professional
To
relationship
maintain by
with
all
my
means,
client
with
has
my
ended.
power, the honor and the traditions of the social work
I will
profession.
maintain
My
my all
colleagues are
means
my
in my
brothers
power,
and
the
sisters,
honor,
not for
and the
the
traditions
considerations
of
of
the
gender,
social work
age,
profession.
religion, race,
My
ethnicity,
colleagues are my
sexual
brothers and
affiliation,
sisters.
physical ability,
I will not
mental
permit
ability, political
considerations of
philosophy, or
gender,
socioeconomic
age,
status to
religion,
contribute towards
race,
my
ethnicity,
duties
sexual
as
affiliation,
my
physical
client.
ability,
Will
mental
be
ability,
sensitive to cultural
political
and
philosophy,
ethnic
or
diversity and
socio-economic
strive to
standing
end
to
discrimination,
intervene
oppression,
between my
poverty, and
duty and
other
my
forms of
client.
social
I
injustices.
will
Will
maintain
I
maintain
will be
the utmost
sensitive to
respect
cultural
for
and
the
to
inherent
ethnic
dignity
diversity
and
and
worth
strive to
of
end
every human being,
discrimination,
even under threat
opposition,
to myself.
poverty, and other forms of
I
social
make these
injustice.
promises
I
solemnly,
will maintain the
freely, and
utmost
upon my
respect
honor.
for the inherent
from
dignity
me
and
and
worth of
upon
every human being,
my
even
honor.
under threat to myself. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
Honor.
okay, thank you all
Thank you.
for the oath taking. So please keep this oath in your mind so that in any profession, when you apply this knowledge, then you always remember this particular oath. One new course will be introduced, that is the Nursing Research Paradigm and Data Management by Ms. Anita Pal in August. That is very important. And here I like to share the academic achievement of our institute. There are 5 period-based courses. One is Rabindra's Story Therapy, Rabindra Sangeet-based Clinical Music Therapy, Environmental Science, School Counseling, and Forensic Psychology. Research internship has been started related to the effect of dance on preschoolers, and 3 students of dance in Kathak and Bharatnatyam. They have joined as the research intern, and to construct the items and to validate the domains. Recently, we have invited 2 renowned dancers, and this is our new course, that is our Nursing Research Paradigm. So this is our achievement, that is aptitude of story therapies, psychophysics in Kathak dance, mathematical modeling of Rabindra Sangeet and human value system. We have published several research papers on this area. Profile matching based career counseling, dance based English learning, and pro-environmental attitude skill construction. And we have published few research papers on this pro-environmental attitude. Our students have received the best paper award from INSPA, 2 best paper awards from INSPA, that is Indian School Psychology Association, and 1 award from Indian Academy of Applied Psychology. I have received these best papers. We have 3 journal publications. We have done some international webinar with Philippines and Greece and Bangladesh. And we have conducted some national webinar in collaboration with the Indian Academy of Health Psychology, Indian School Psychology Association, Indian Academy of Applied Psychology, and we have done some college collaboration. 8 college collaboration we have already finished, and this is the free Sunday webinar. This webinar is basically for the outreach program, where we can disseminate the knowledge about our activities. Today, we will discuss about the learning analytics, and you will find that is we have conducted several research on the learning analytics, specifically the cross-tabulation, content analysis, pivot table, and the project report writing. We have done all of them across the different phases. Professor Subrata Saha, are you here? Professor Saha? Professor Subrata Saha, আপনি আছেন? কোথায় গেল? সুব্রত? সুব্রত তুমি তো আরে তুমি তো আনমিউট করবে।
Now audible?
Okay. Yeah, yes. Now
yes.
You are okay.
Okay.
So I am. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Professor Subrata Saha. Professor Subrata Saha in the Department of Education, Rabindra Bharati University. His specialization is in educational psychology, psychodynamics of mental health, psychology of intelligence and creativity, advanced research methodology in education, measurement and evaluation. He published a good number of research papers in national and international journals. He is the chief editor, Journal of Education, Rabindra Bharati University. Is the members of research bodies of different universities of India, expert in UGC and NCT panel. He visited PR China as a member of delegates in 1979. Professor Subrata Saha is very active person, in the area of department education. He has many students, and I am very much proud of Professor Shaha. So
Thank you so much.
now
And good
I'm
morning
requesting
to
Professor
everybody.
Shaha. Yes, please you say a few words about today's topic, that is the learning analytics.
Am I clearly audible right now?
Yes, yes, you are very much clear, audible.
Okay. So it's a good morning to everybody, and in this fine morning, this institute has organized a very beautiful discussion come conference or seminar on this I must say the learning analytics. Actually, this is very important in the sense that we know much of learning, the factors of learning, the theories of learning, the learning paradigm, the modifications through learning, so many things we have come across. But in my opinion, all this knowledge is useful in the hands of the practitioner. And practitioner, in the hands of practitioner, I feel that simply the knowledge and theoretical knowledge is not sufficient. Actually, in learning, there are two important components. One is the learner himself or herself, and at the same time, the learning material he is or he has been exposed to. That means the teacher, the curriculum, the things and other things which are exposed before the learner, and so that he can learn from that events. Actually, nobody can push somebody to learn. Rather, the learner has to synthesize the information she is getting from, and then try to improve himself or herself, and put the knowledge in the hierarchy of the knowledge, and then in the later phase, in the reflective level, the learner can use that learning. So I feel this kind of learning, I mean the analytics, this is important as because it not only gives you information, rather it provides ample opportunities and avenues, and actually a greater ambit of the learner, that the learner himself, herself, who is important, who is learning, along with his environment and the external environment, the internal environment, and that means the learner with his learning environment, the analysis of the whole thing is very important, and the information is important to help the learner how where he is standing right now. It is to make him clear through this analytics. Next, what will be the priorities of his learning, or where lies the difficulties, both at the same time. And at the end, I must say what he will do, but not only simply diagnosis, rather a kind of prescription. This part is important in the field of education, that the teacher or the instructor, whatever they are, they must get this information in a very neated and well-weaved manner, so that he can give the learner a very better platform, better information dissemination, and at the same time to help the learner to acquire skills whatsoever if necessary in different sorts of learning. And so this whole ambit is important, not only the learning, the concept of learning, this and that. Learner in one side, learning environment is another side, and the learning material in another side. All these three are to be analyzed very categorically, and to adjust the learner suitability, deficiency, or the learner's competencies, etc. And then accordingly, the prescriptions can be made through this analytics. And I feel this seminar will bring a kind of very, very, very vibrating informations and techniques and processes of learning. I mean the learning and analytics. Thank you so much. And I express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Rai for inviting me, and I am with you here for this part of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Subrata Saha. It's a very nice that is you are here and you have discussed the most important issue that is the prescriptive analytics, prescriptive learning analytics. This is very important particular area. Another one is the diagnostic learning analytics. This is another important area so that we can identify the specific problem of the learner and we can design the instructional procedure. Accordingly, the learner can understand. And here, Professor Kamaluddin sir is here, very eminent professor. So, sir, is it possible to say a few words?
Yes, sir, it is possible. And on what topic should I say something, sir?
Yes, sir.
Could you please tell me the topic on which I should say a few words?
That is the learning analytics.
Basically,
as a psychometrician said, how we can assess the learner's performance so that we can provide them the specific type of instructional design so that they can understand.
Thank you, sir. Basically, while I was reading the flyer, I came to learn that the presentation to be made by a professor of business organization or something like Faculty of Business Studies, and I am here to learn about learning analytics because it is a bit new to me, and today I'm basically a learner, but definitely psychometrics can play a vital role to assess learners' aptitude, to assess learners' motivation, to assess learners' diagnostic conditions. Sometimes we classify students based on their difficulties, based on their abilities. So psychometrics can play a vital role, but from organizational point of view, especially from business studies perspective, it might be something new, and definitely there can be a mixture of both. Psychometrics and learning analytics can work together. So after I have heard the lecture today, maybe I will be in a very good position to say more. But at this time, I am very much thrilled. I am very much excited to hear from the learned audience of Tripura University. And definitely, your initiative is always something innovative, new, and very challenging, interesting. I wish this endeavor to be successful. Thank you, sir.
Sir, for illuminating some of the ideas about the role of psychometrics. So there are two approaches of data analysis. One is the big data. Another one is the, I don't want to use the small data, but relatively small data. Okay, and we psychometricians specifically is giving importance on the small data or the large data, but that is not the big data. So when we are talking about the big data, for example, the NAC is collecting big data. When we are dealing with the IQAC program in the different colleges, so the government is taking the big data. So based upon this big data, what will be the model? What will be the future when we are talking about the future employment of the teachers? So what will be the qualification of the future employment? Future teachers, what will be the qualification? And how can we provide the instructions by using different cognitive tools to the learners so that the learners can improve their performance? So there are two approaches in improving the performance. One is the guided approach, another one is the auto-suggestive approach. So The auto-suggestive approach may be applied by the students in 2030 or 2050. So now we are thinking about the employment generation program. In the 51st webinar, one professor gave lecture, particularly the employment in 2030 and 2050. And he suggested several occupations. And we have learned this thing. So today we have Devarshi Mukherjee, Dr. Devarshi Mukherjee. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Devarshi Mukherjee to you. A brief profile of Dr. Devarshi Mukherjee. Devarshi Mukherjee is an alumnus of Vishwabharati Shanti Niketan and Banastali Vidyapith, Rajasthan, having. He is an associate professor and head for the second consecutive term of the Department of Business Management, Tripura University, a central university. He is also the founding head of IC, maybe the information communication, of the Department of Tourism Administration. He has established the state's first business incubator funded by the Ministry of MSME, Government of India. He is the state coordinator of the AICTE sponsored student induction program for Tripura. He has been nominated as a mentor by AICTE for newly inducted teachers of technical education, besides being nominated as an expert for AICTE NEAT 2.0 initiative. Having specialized in the information system domain, his research interest lies in developing blended learning models and ICT intervention in tertiary education, ensuring learning continuity. He has worked extensively in curricular design and innovative Andragogy development, besides teaching and academic administration over the last 2 decades. His endeavor in research has earned him over 90 publications to his credit. He has worked in many funded projects sponsored by NABARD and ICSSR, besides offering consultancy services for clients like Manipal Global Education Services. He has delivered over 75 invited talks and chaired technical sessions at many conclaves like IIT BHU, MSME Institute Agartala, Mirabai's Nika University, Afghanistan, Department of Tourism, Government of Tripura, and AGMC Agartala. 4 doctoral students have earned their degrees under his guidance, while 4 are pursuing. And some of the students, they are also joining here. He has conducted leadership and motivation sessions with the management students and teachers at various institutions, including AICTE and MHRD sponsored faculty development programs and refresher courses. He has also deliberated in the different television shows in Tripura and Colors FM radio. Wow, very good. In Bangladesh. Sir, Colors FM radio in Bangladesh. And he writes regularly for newspapers and portals on contemporary issues. He has recently published an edited volume titled Purbotoron, The Rise of Northeast, Paradigms of Development in the VUCA World, was published by Bloomsbury. And the forward was written by the Honorable Chief Minister, Government of Tripura. So now I am requesting Dr. Devarshi Mukherjee, please you enlighten us.
Yeah, thank you. It's a wonderful moment and a very happy Sunday to all the participants and the respected dignitaries who are present over here, and my dear students and the scholars. And I feel extremely happy that today I'm a part of this show and I intend to make my presentation focused on a focal theme that has been given here. And as the moderator, Professor Shaha, has elaborated on learning analytics and its outcome. So I am a new entrant into the field of education. Primarily, I belong to the field of business management and then gradually dragged into information technology domain and suddenly developed an interest and in the area of learning gain measurement, because if there is something which you cannot measure, that gives me some bit of a trouble, that all qualitative issues we are talking about, but learning is something that we have not been able to measure so far. So that with that notion, I started off with this basic idea about learning continuity. Then we started working on this learning analytics, and I find it's relatively a new term because right now we are all talking about education 4.0, the interventions that have been envisaged by the government, and this in the form of NEP, which has shaped out a lot of challenges before us. But primarily, I think all researchers who are present over here and the teachers who have been teaching over these decades, that is one broad area where I think we need to pinpoint our focus, is that is there any mechanism with which we can help our students in a better way than we used to do earlier. Fine, because this has been the basic bone of contention for the academic researchers, academic fraternity, because we are seeing the flurry of these learning tools that are coming up through the different technology providers, the EdTech domain, their way they have grown so far. Because Byju's, possibly we have learned that it has become the first unicorn company. So what they are doing, which is not being done by the other institutions, this is something intrigues me the most, because why students who are studying in a school is feeling comfortable or at home with the learning prescriptions given by companies, edtech companies. So this is the point, and while studying this through, we found out that there are certain interventions developed and implemented by the technology experts which help them to track and monitor a student's progress and growth. This is the final point which I'll try to touch today. Let me share my screen first, and I hope with this I'll be able to throw some light on the topic for the discussion today. So I hope the screen is visible to all, right? Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So as the title has been, the scope has been limited to learning analytics and the usefulness. So in this case, I'll be talking about what learning analytics generally we mean, and then we will be talking about how we could measure and if there are any interventions available to measure the growth of learning. This is something perhaps relatively a new concept which has not been practiced mostly. Even we are trying to develop a model. So I'll go ahead with that. Now, firstly, we will give a caveat here because since I have been teaching in the tertiary education sector, so my discussion primarily would limit to the tertiary education only, because I think we all use this term pedagogy and andragogy. I have seen in different conferences and even in the administration also people use this term, but they are potentially two different terms that we must understand right now and to set. Because andragogy talks about a lot of responsible learning. So the students who are in the tertiary education must exhibit the traits of a matured learner, because maturity is the key here, because they are, I think while addressing, I think Dr. Roy was talking about the assistive learning. It's very integral part in the tertiary sector, because they are not to be a guided learners, because the way they are able to articulate things, they're able to solve the problems. That is the basic essence of tertiary education. That is the reason the UG and PG programs have been devised. And that is the reason they should be taking the onus of learning themselves, because they definitely would be taught, they would definitely would given the learning content, but over and out, they need to develop that intrinsic motivation towards learning and thereby grabbing the concepts, try to build around their ideas over it and then try to articulate them while solving a problem. So this has been the basic focus, and in that process they would be, you know, having a glutton for learning. They would be going towards the self-directed learning. So these issues need to be addressed, and these are the primary assumption of andragogy. So if we are able to address them, that means we are talking about the students who are in the tertiary segment. Otherwise, then again, actually, if these in the absence of this kind of understanding, this kind of dimensions, we would be actually teaching the school kids into the tertiary segment. So that is something which is not the basic objective of idea of having an UG and PG program. Fine. So the students here in the PG segment of the scholars, they must try to take an onus on themselves about learning. Learning analytics, the basic domain, it's like a traffic signal. That is the reason I have given this symbolic image. They give, the data gives us the insight that, you know, when a student is showing the, you know, early exit mode, there are situations when students don't, they are not in a position to continue with the studies. They're in a position that they are going to fail in the examination. So if you remember that when we used to have a smaller cohort in the class, because that takes us to the Vedic system of Guru Shishya Parampara, where a teacher used to play the role of a mentor, but that used to be a small size. But if somebody has to teach a group of, let's say, 100 in private schools, you will be seeing the class size, the cohort size is very, very big. So monitoring each one of them and giving the individual feedback is an uphill task. And thereby the role of technology comes into it, which, you know, actually feeds on their data on regular basis and throws if there is any deviation or if there is any indication the students are showing in terms of, you know, early exit mode, or maybe they are going to leave the course, they are going to fail. There are symptoms that they are showing. That is the first signal. Maybe a student got admitted into one program, and in the first internal exam, there could be a lot of cases on disengagement in the term of not attending the classes, not submitting the assignments on time, not giving the examination in time, not able to join the discussion threads. And there are many such interventions that technology has given us to, you know, put on the students, and that help us in construing the idea whether the student is taking the right path or if there's deviation from the desired path. Now the question is, not every student is an equal learner. There could be slow learners, there could be fast learners, there could be moderate learners in the class, and we have to adapt to that. So what kind of learning prescriptions possibly we can suggest to them, that again comes from the idea, because only by analyzing one test result, only about one non-submission assignment, doesn't make one student a slow learner or doesn't let him fall back in the path of learning. So therefore, we need to understand and analyze the data, and then with our experience, we can find out what kind of support a student needs. This is the first step. Second, we're going for the prediction. In the prediction part, we can show the level of disengagement gives us the path. We can show that particular student is showing symptoms of early exit, or they be showing us symptoms of, you know, doing better in some other course. And now you all know that NEP program, I think we were discussing about NEP at the beginning of the talk, that NEP focus primarily, I think Professor Shah would be knowing, and all of us present here would be knowing, that focus NEP not on the program, rather the focus is on the course. So the time has come. We are talking about Education 4.0. In Education 4.0 gives birth to a new a breed of learners who are the non-traditional learners. They would be preferring to learn on the job. And on the job learning means they would be going ahead with the courses, not on a program. I may not enroll for an MSc statistics or MTech power systems. I can go ahead with only one course, maybe inferential statistics, or maybe I can go with R programming, anything, any small course which is I need, and then accordingly I can develop my own basket of learning and utilize it. So ROI calculation is again an important part. So therefore, the prediction system tells us that student has got good quantitative ability, so perhaps he should be pushed towards doing a particular program. Again, that also comes to that analytics. Second is the pro-action part. If I am able to detect if there is any chance of any deviation, so I can, on the basis of the prediction, I can go for a pro-action. So basic three is identification. I can, detect and deter the situation to come upon us. We will not wait till the end semester result is published and we declare a student that you have failed, but we will take proactive measures in order to find out that if there is a possibility, if the student is allowed to move the way he or she is moving, failure is bound to happen. So I can take pro-action, go for extra learning capsules, and then prevent the situation which was going to happen and going to be detrimental. So likewise, we need to plan our things. We need to, evangelize the basic idea of data crunching. So that's the basic premise. Now with that, we'll go ahead with the prime emphasis that why is that learning analytics is very, very important. Learning analytics focus upon the learning gain. Now, learning gain is something we all go by in qualitative measures. How do we measure? How do we understand the student is able to learn? So primarily the basic focus talks about what are the measurement is the primary, the assignment results, the test results. So, and then some bit of experience comes in the form of a teacher's own idea about evaluation. So these three comprises of a measurement scale for a student to understand, for a teacher to understand well how far the student is going to succeed in the examination. So primarily what I'm trying to say here is that it's not only that quantitative data, but a lot of unstructured data which is used in the form of discussions. The writing of the blogs, they also contribute significantly in understanding a student's face. Now there are LMS, LMS is used in different organizations, different institutions. So they constantly monitor through their dashboard the kind of discussion that are going here. So if I'm trying to talk about those issues, possibly I'm not only taking care of the quantitative data, but also I'm taking the qualitative data into my decision-making model, and the BI tools embedded into the LMS feeds on that unstructured data and gives me an insight about the student's performance. Now that is a very interesting part. We must have in our class a group of students who are very, very docile, who are kind of a D&D personality, we call them, that do not disturb kind of personality, who do not prefer to engage in any kind of discussion. But that does not mean the student is not going to perform well. So his or her disengagement with the class discussion does not make a good or bad student, but we can find out why, if there's engagement needed in the form of discussion, why he or she was happening. So therefore, the interventions need to be created at individual basis. That kind of monitoring gives rise to the idea about individual tracking, and that data gets into a system, gives the fodder for the learning analytics. Now, why we need that? Primarily, the basic challenge of today's learning is that we are suffering from the fractal dimensions. Fractal dimensions, I hope people would be knowing, it's a repeating or the recursive nature of events, like the cloud, the flowing water. So the way I have been taught, if I am permeating down the same to my students without any addition, that's how I'm creating the fractal dimensions in my learning ecosystem. So that does not help the student. Rather, I'm reproducing the historical knowledge without any addition to it. So those kind of issues are detrimental for the learner to grow. But now, why it is impossible today these days to keep it? Because today, let us all understand this part. It is the institutions are not unitary bodies which is offering education. Rather, it's a complex adaptive system which comprises of multiple elements or entities operating in conjunction. There's a library, there's a computer lab, there's a teacher, there are students, there's administrative office, there are the world or the global repositories which are shared across. So these all comprise in learning. So they do have their own contribution. So primarily what has happened, what I have found, that the element of the direct teaching method has so far been considered for evaluation of a learner gain. But then students do also learn from this part. Even the environment plays a very positive role. Even Tagore, because I think this morning I shared my article with this group, that even Rabindranath Tagore has very categorically talked about couple of important issues where he has talked about that the self-expression is very, very important and communication with the environment is very, very critical. So we all, I mean, however, talk about learning theories, learning models, but we have to understand one thing: till the time a student does not communicate with the environment, does not communicate with the peers, with the teachers, within the group, within the cohort, between the cohorts, these communications are tremendously important and adds to their knowledge base. And then that helps them to express themselves. The objective of learning primarily is what I believe, that they should be able to express themselves and articulate the concepts into the practical solutions. This is the finer part of learning. Fine. Now, here we will be taking 1 minute to discuss about the definition of learning gain, which is very, I mean, we'll go by this definition. There could be a debate on that, but I'm not trying to engage in a debate on learning gain. Primarily, it talks about distance travel. That means if a student enters my class at the first day of the semester, exits the class at the last day of the semester. So between this time frame, what has been his learning, what has been his ability to articulate the concept that have been taught? Is he in a position to solve the problems on the concepts he has been taught in the class? If answer is yes, that means he has exhibiting some traits of learning. So there has been some positive learning gain. Fine. So there are different scales and measures are there on which even I am working, because my scholar Ranjit, who is attending it, he is also working in the same line. So primarily what we are trying to do is we are trying to understand whether the student has learning, what has been the positive learning gain. So this is the distance travel, one important part. And the second definition talks about that what kind of attributes we are expecting in a student if he has sent some learning. That attributes to be measured in terms of knowledge, skills, work readiness, personal development, because primarily it's a change in behavior. If a student has learned something, you will see the behavioral change that happens within a student. If it is not, because that means clearly there has been no learning at all. Fine. Now here we will talk about this andragogic intervention. Intervention, if you could look at initially what we had, that we have the chalk and talk kind of a thing, the sage on the stage kind of a model of teaching, which we have also been taught, because that time technology wasn't there. And then finally we came the support of technology, where the visualization was there at the head of the study. And then together technology and the chalk and the talk gave rise to the blended learning part, and the element of blending, again, it determined it is determined by the that the subject teacher, and depending the kind of the gravity of the subject, how it is. Because if I'm teaching technology, there has to be a language, but if I'm teaching a language, so it again depends on the individuals to adapt to it, the kind of technology intervention people may like to induct into the program. Leads to the next important part is the mentoring, because once a student is taught about the subject, he needs to be mentored, develop that critical thinking, because the self-expression can only come when he is able to assimilate the concepts. That is what we are looking at, and then we need to give them the assistance in the form of learning and measurement. This has been the final tune about learning. That's the way a student learn, because it's a fundamental question. Because if I ask the students in different lectures, I have asked them. So primarily the learning is again by reinforcement. Then the articulation part happens. So a lot of components are there. And then finally, if we could see the experiential deliberation part, even that also been talked about in NEP also, that everywhere we are trying to add that experiential learning part. The students learn through their own experience, interaction with the environment. So thereby it makes the learning more appropriate, because every single concept, every single theory that has been taught to each student, everybody makes some bit of their own meaning of it. And then that makes the difference between the two students, how they are able to solve a problem. Somebody is able to do so, somebody is not able to solve the problem. Same theory goes down. So the experience is the determining factor, and that also makes us a candidate for higher learning gain, because if we are able to add the elements of experiential learning, so higher learning gain possibly we can achieve, because learning gain is there. Higher learning gain comes from the fact that we add the element of experiential elimination. Fine. Here, one of the important metrics I'd like to talk about, that every student falls in a cohort, within a section or a cohort or a group or a class or a batch, whichever way we want to distinguish them. They fall under in any one of these 4 segments, quadrants. These are explained by the element of the level of time devoted and the level of active engagement with the content. So primarily the first category we talk about is the induced learners who do not, did not have much exposure to the content or not time. Second is the traditional learners who are primarily dependent on the direct teaching or traditional teaching methods. So they have all the time with them, but they very less, they academically engage with the content less. Then the third category are the rote learners. I don't need to talk about, we all know, who believe in cramming, so that technically the content engagement is very high, but time devoted is very less. But the fourth quadrant is the matured learners, which is the objective of tertiary education. Everybody is trying to reach to that level. Now there are certain hypotheses or assumptions to this, is that everybody is trying to reach first one, or everybody whomsoever in this remaining 3 quadrants, they try to achieve the matured quadrant, who has devoted time, who has active engagement, and they develop that articulation capacity. And then the second assumption is the positions are not stationary. So you can actually categorize each student within your cohort in any one of these 4 quadrants. And let me tell you, these positions are not stationary, which means a matured student or a student who is in the matured category for subject A, or maybe in mathematics, may not be that strong in computers, or may not be that strong in, let's say, any other subject. In my area is finance or HR, any other related area. So they can go back. And finally, so in the mature student in semester 1 in 2 subjects may come back or may fall back on the induced category or the traditional category in the remaining subjects. So that is the reason it's a very dynamic situation, and that calls for constant monitoring. Now here you will see that you need 2 important approaches. One is the data management, and second is the design thinking. Now design thinking, again, it will open a different line of discussion. But primarily, let me tell you, design thinking approaches are being followed at different levels. And first step to design thinking is about empathy. So if a student fails to learn, so we do not fail the student. We try to empathize with him or her to understand the challenges he or she is facing. Is it the linguistic challenge? Is it the conceptual challenge? Is it the level of engagement, or is some physiological challenge? There are a multitude of challenges a student faces. So now the design thinking approaches are there to empathize and ideate new ways of learning. And that is only possible when you have enough data to support, and to your all decision making are supported by that. Fine. Now let us quickly look at the institutional challenges that we are facing. So we are again in a classroom, because I teach in university. I think Professor Shah and Dr. they are also teaching in academic institutions. So we are bound by these facts. It's only 1.5 years now we are talking about blended learning all the more. We are talking about Zoom classes and all. And I bet, before March 2020, very few of our professors or students must have heard about something called Zoom or Google Meet, something like that. So now what happens if we see that situation? So we were confined within a classroom, and a professor as senior as Professor Saha, who is teaching in one university, why the students of other universities would be deprived of his teaching skills? Isn't it a very genuine question to ask? Professor Dr. Roy is teaching in one institution. So why his students only going to be the beneficiary of his, learning knowledge? Now the question is very simple. Okay, so you have to clear the entrance to come and get teaching. But then in democracy of learning, these situations do not hold true. MIT Open Courseware, they have opened their gates long back. But today the time has come when with the implementation of NEP, it may so happen that one student may take one course, one credit from Tripura University, then they go to Ravindra Bharati, then they go to ISI Kolkata, and then they go to IIT. So they mix a mixed bag. So it is not anymore institute dependent program. It is more on the strength is focus is given course more, and therefore the limited counseling, the face-to-face knowledge dissemination, because there are theories are there, theory of naturalness and adaptive language, theory of media richness, so many theories that talked about that, nobody can replace face-to-face, fine, but what next? If I cannot go to all places. So these are the challenges primarily institutions were facing. So now with this online learning, with maturity and resistance is primarily coming in my articles also. I have a multitude of reasons have been cited because people resisting lack of bandwidth, lack of preparedness, they cannot see, there are some ocular disorders happening. But primarily, I think as psychologists, I think you would appreciate, because it is the constant supervision of the parents that is causing a kind of trauma in the minds of the young learners. Earlier, they used to get to the school, they can vent out their feelings with their friends and peers. Right now, even if they are making a phone call to their friends, they are under supervision of their parents, they've been guided. So that is also causing some bit of a trauma, and that is the learning gain measurement is getting impacted indirectly. And I think one of my student is here. We are working with the team of psychologists. We are trying to find out the limited span of attention, how it is impacting the learning in online domain. Fine, if time permits, we'll discuss about that also. Now we move to the data capture part, which is very interesting, and it will be very. Sometimes I feel that the data reveals a lot of truth, hidden truth, because a student who I thought was a very genuine student, the moment I see the kind of engagement he is or she is showing with the content, in terms of downloading the content, in terms of submitting the assignments, I find there is a lackluster performance from the part of the student. So therefore, my whole idea about that impression is sometimes getting diminished with the passage of time, and the student needs to be again counseled, and they need to be told to come back to the fold. So one part is the data capture of a student's performance, their behavior. Second is an online assessment and constant data analysis. You keep weekly tests online. Right now, I think in our university also we work on the Moodle-based tests are there. Because I think Ranjit is here, he has set up the Moodle LMS for the department, and I think it was the first in the state of Tripura, or first for the university also, for department also, to have a complete set of Moodle assessment. And we have actually tracked their students' performance, and whenever we have countered them with that kind of behavior, they have said, okay, sir, we could not do it. Earlier, they never thought such kind of system could always be there, but it's all done with the intention to help the students more to engage with the content. Next is ubiquitous learning. If you are outside the classroom, but now during the pandemic, we have seen the kind of situations has occurred in institutions. I wrote one line in one article that if the school colleges are shut, does it mean learning will stop? Eventually not. Then how it's going to happen? Learning has to be ubiquitous everywhere. So LMS part is there with which the learning could be facilitated. So now we are going ahead with the data analysis part, and let us see the basic component, how we are going to do it. So now in that case, we'll be talking about it, because e-learning is something we are talking about of late, but this has been there since 80s. When Professor Yashpal, I remember as a student, I used to listen to his UGC lectures. I think seniors would remember when he used to deliver talks on physics on UGC on Sundays, and 12 o'clock in the noon, he used to come on national television. So e-learning has been there since those times. But two important things that we are talking about these days, we are talking about that metacognition and meta literacy. This is very, very important. Now, let us understand one simple thing, that we talk about metacognition means a student's own understanding about his psychological abilities, and meta literacy talks about one student's own understanding about his ability to learn certain things. Now, this, when somebody is in the group, in the cohort, in a classroom, the student is able to express himself or herself. But what happens when the student is learning alone, self-paced learning within the classroom? Right now, as it is happening, students are in the confines of their own room. Then it becomes very, very difficult. Therefore, we need definite technical interventions to capture his or her footprints and then create a map of students' progression. And thereby, we are giving rise to the non-traditional students who are mature. As I said earlier, they are trying to curve their own areas. They are trying to pick up the courses relevant to them. So they are exhibiting traits of maturity. It is not top-down, it is rather bottom-up approach with which they pick up the courses they need to learn, and they are going ahead. And the numbers of such students are only increasing. So primarily we are talking about the learner analytics. It is again the learner data produced by learner, and we are trying to talk about the dropout prediction systems. We are trying to talk about the live statistics about the learners, and we talk about the individual progress vis-a-vis group progress. Again, that's a very interesting measure to find out in comparison with the peer how the students are performing. Fine. And there's a difference between the academic analytics and learning analytics. Academic analytics talks about more like a the academic program, its revenue vis-a-vis the comparison between two revenue earning programs, whereas learning analytics talks primarily about their learning behavior. It's most drawn towards the psychological evaluation of the students, and also the quantitative measure about one's progression. Fine. And then the big data, I think, as Professor Uttara was talking about, yes, it's big data, because every day, and it is not only the quantitative or the numeric figures, it's the textual data also. Text mining is also involved, and therefore we are trying to create a visualization with the data and the kind of responses they are doing, and accordingly advise the students, and we go for the cognitive tutoring about the students. And what it can primarily do is, as I already said, that it can intervene if a student is struggling, and we can provide them a personalized learning behavior. So there are multiple applications are there in Blackboard, then website. There are different applications are there using which we can try to help the students, and we find out that if the student is showing any level of disengagement at any level, we can track that and we can help the students. So primarily what we feed on is basically the login information, the participation rates, the discussion threads, and the grades are obviously a direct measure of one student's personal growth. Fine. Now it can detect the pattern in writing wrong answers, with the grammatical error or it's syntactical or semantical errors. It can identify the slow learners, because every time we are trying to go through the assignments that they are submitting, and if we are working on them, we can very easily identify who are the fast learners, who are the slow learners, and accordingly we can create a measurement practice within which we can grade the students in the top quartile on the low quartile. Fine. Another important thing, like good data, we also get bad data. So bad data means they are data, but they are of no use to us. And I'll show you one such example today. Mere hit counts, the people are logging in, like online classes. I have seen in my experience, many students join at the last moment to seek the attendance. So those things, it will show the attendance, but eventually the learning will not take place in this case. So therefore, that data mining also reveals the kind of engagement. Now, I think many of us who take classes on Google Meet, they also use the Google Attendance as an extension. So therefore, I do not call for attendance anymore these days. I only download the sheet, which automatically gets downloaded, and look at the attendance, and it gives me a complete timeline of the student's engagement with the class. How many times, what was the duration of the time the student has attended it. Accordingly, the attendance to be given. So what I'm trying to say, that different statistical or the data management tools are available, only we need to understand them. Fine. And then let us talk about Moodle. I work in Moodle. So one such LMS application. So we have the class data application is there, but right now this application isn't working. I do not know. Perhaps they have withdrawn it. And but then we have the other applications like Piwik, which has been requested as Matamo. So there are different applications are there. If anyone is using a website to teach, let's say using WordPress. So with Matamo comes free with them. So any student who wants to create his own website and he can attach a plugin of Matamo with them, all the site-wide reports are downloaded in Matamo, and it gives you a very beautiful dashboard images about how many people attended, when did they attend, which country they are from, which device they have connected. So you can always find out level of engagement, how many are on mobile, how many are on PC, how many times they attended the class, what are the level of assignments, and it gives you a BI application also, and it shows that the kind of prospective results, and it shows the prediction also. Fine. Okay, now let us quickly look at some of the data elements. This is the screen which I am sharing of my own department's LMS page. Fine, my screen where I am trying to see individual level, there is a student, and I'm trying to see the content engagement with them. So what are the event context, what are the activities he was doing, and the IP addresses from where. So I can see that here the definite IP, maybe working from home or somewhere he was constantly doing it, and the kind of activities he was engaged in. Similarly, for entire class, I have the opportunity to look at the different data elements and find out the level of engagement the student is doing. Second, I can go ahead and find out the complete list of events with them and the components associated with it, what all things he or she has done. Fine. And then the invoice tracking. I mean, there was an assignment given on invoice making. So Devarajit has completed that. So what all time he has submitted, I can figure that out. So this information gives me necessary input for developing the mind map for the student. Then the discussion thread I was talking about. So these are the set of students who are constantly working and commenting on them. So I can track that, and I can feed to my BI tools and can find out what is the basic problem. It can go ahead with the keyword search, and every single details I can download in Excel, and we can upload it in the analytics platform to give a current analysis. Now I can find out the engagement level with the students, his email ID, and the login activity. As I said, the login information is very important, and this information I can download this straight away in Excel file, and I can make all sorts of models. Fine. Now this is about talking about the grade evaluation. So grade evaluation again is a very interesting part. I can now complete span of time. It could be 10 years, it could be 2 years, it could be 100 tests the students must have given. I can create a graph out of it. I can download that data, and I can monitor with the class average how one is doing. Fine. It gives me a very clear picture. If a student is showing a progress, if a showing a decline, so everything is visible, which is in physical system is very important, because we do not remember once the copies are checked and given to them. So I do not have any record. I know I don't need to go back, and every time I have to go back, check physically, and then create those graphs. I don't need it. I just evaluate it here in this platform only, and the marks are stored forever. Even I can compare with the class average of 2018 vis-a-vis 2019. Then I can compare the average of 18-19 to 2021. So likewise, which batch was better? I mean, all sorts of permutation, combination, all kinds of pivoting can be done here. Fine. Now I can find out the documents, what has been on which I want to evaluate them. So these are some of the cases that I had given. I can pick all of them. I can give only one of them and find out that in this case, how the student has fared. This was a moderately difficult case. This was a far difficult case. So compared to that, I can all sorts of permutation combination I can exercise and find out that if a student is fast learner, to he or she is showing traits in actually which can be tracked or not. Fine. Now let us see how could we use the log data. So log data, we are trying to see, this is again coming from a test. I think again Shubhayan is here, my scholar who has prepared this thing. Now what happens, we are trying to track the performance of the participant in training programs. Fine. So there are 3 training programs were conducted, and these cohorts were created in terms of the marks distribution, and I can find out that 17 of them, they were in the 61 to 80 category. Fine. So this is the distribution which I have created for batch 1, batch 2. This is the number of students participated total, and maximum of them, first one is 61 to 80 maximum number, 81 to 100 very few, and the third one is the second batch 2 and batch 3. I mean, they did not perform well, very poor number. Fine. Then it comes, I can find out that how many of them had accessed LMS. That means the level of engagement vis-a-vis the marks they have got. Fine. So I can find out that 0 to 20 marks have been scored by the people who have only accessed only 919 times together. So they did not engage with the content much, but people who have scored maximum, they had a high engagement level. Fine. So that means if people are engaging with the content, chances are there they are good scoring more. And that has been again reiterated by other person. But here I could see that, that some of them, they did not score well despite connecting the content well. Here people can score. So the inference could be they were senior people, because the training program details which I have figured out, this is from the one of the government training programs. So the chances could be there that people were very senior in nature, so they did not have to go through the content more. So possibly the experiential learning or experience came in the way, despite having connected to the content less, they scored well. The third one, again, it is showing that the people who engaged with the content more, they scored more. So actually this is, I have not done any other statistical tool, only we downloaded the log records and presented in the form of a graph. Fine. And now this is the overall, combining all 3 batches, how we have created it. And that's the thing exactly has happened here. Fine. Now I was talking about that, data always does not talk about anything. It is the feedback of the faculties. Fine. So you will be seeing that there are only 2 of them, 2 trainers, they have got good feedback and they had attended the LMS maximum time. But there are few people who also got good score, but they did not attend. So does it mean that the professors were very the champion professors, that they did not need to engage with the content? No. In this case, they were not given the links. They were not asked to go through the LMS. So that's the reason I'm saying that data sometimes tend to befool us. So we need to be very, very cautious about the interpretation and the analysis of it. So therefore, the expertise of the analytics expert is very much important. Otherwise, what will happen, we may end up deriving some meaning which has not been intended. So this is one classic case which I thought I must share it with you, because looking at the content, it tends to defy the objective of having the trainers to look at the LMS content. But whereas the story was different, the experts, the trainers, they were not told to go through that LMS. They were going through other contents. Fine. So that is the reason I'm saying that whenever we are trying to track a student's, monitor or track students' behavior, we need to train our LMS accordingly. We need to create the data points effectively so that we can, later on, it should not be a case of embarrassment for us. Fine. So that's the reason I said that primarily our role is we have shifted our role from an traditional sage on the stage to one hand, we have become a moderator or the facilitator, and the other hand, we also have become an analyst, that we are going ahead with the live log records of our students, and then we are countering them with the learning prescription. That if I have told something, if I uploaded some content, if the students have downloaded or not, so we can readily check, and then we can ask questions, we can conduct tests and evaluate them. I'm not saying grading is all bad, but grading is there, but must be supplemented with the analysis of the textual data to identify the footprints, that identify the signatures they are leaving on the different platform, and then we can help the students. Fine. And there are multitude of applications available, Moodle, Google Classroom, everywhere you can capture data. And that, I mean, I work in Moodle, so I find it very, very useful. I do not know if you are using Moodle, any one of you, so you find it useful. MS Teams are there, but these are primary teaching tools. But Moodle again in LMS, I suggest that all of us should be using an LMS to capture the data, and we can help the students better. Fine. So with this, I conclude my talk. And if there are any questions, I'd like to more than happy. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee, for the nice presentation. In your presentation, you have shown that is a chart one has the positive skewness. So have you thought of it? That is why the batch one is positively skewed, and batch two is better in comparison with the positive, that is a batch one. So what are the underlying features for this? So can you thought of it?
Yes, actually what happened, these batches are all different. So they come from different, they are not from the same cohort. Fine. So that is the reason we did not think about, we just, it's a post facto matter. We have downloaded the data and we are trying to understand the level of engagement. The objective was to find out is there any positive correlation between the scores and the level of engagement with the content. So we found that the people who are engaging with the content more, they were tending to score. The second batch, the first batch, the batch 1 and 3, they have shown positive. In second case, we inquired, they were very senior people. So despite, I mean, they were all the practitioners in that domain. So the questions that were asked to them, it was not very tough for them to crack, but the students, the scholars, for them it was little difficult. So the people who initially scored well in the second go, they were very experienced people. That was one kind of thing. And exactly right, you have said there are a lot of interventions. We are trying rather to make the test in a way that we can actually capture the data effectively, and we are designing and training our application accordingly. We have the Moodle established, so we just an experimental basis, we are going ahead and we'll be calculating the data. We have huge chunks of data, but mostly they are not rendering any value which we are expecting out of them. But primarily we have worked on it, that the experience sometimes plays a differentiating role. Sometimes the level of question, the criticality of the questions plays a differentiating role. So we need to standardize them, and then we can go for it. It is just I showed this presentation, the graphs, just to sensitize that what could possibly be done using learning analytics.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. As I have seen, that is, you have given importance on the bar plot and the pie diagram, etc. But why not the box whisker plot? Because the box whisker plot provides you a lot of information about the variation. But you have not used the box whisker plot. You are giving importance only this bar diagram and the pie chart, and mainly the pre and post design.
Yes. No, we have not considered it, because the data which we have, we could only work out with just to show the level of engagement. There are other things are there. The box plotting will be doing it, because the different quartiles will be matching. We will be working on that, because our team is working already on some paper. So right now, I think I'm not in a position to share other data. And we are working on it. Definitely, I think we keep this thing in mind, that we are different charting techniques, whichever is showing the association more. But this plot, we kept showing that primarily it is supporting what we are trying to say. that is the reason we kept that particular plot. But again, yes, we will be talking about that box plotting. Yes, we think that outliers, everything should be shown, but we will be concentrating on that also. It's a very good suggestion, sir.
Thank you, sir. Here it is my pleasure to present one of my study on the learning analytics. So here you will find the different type of course design. That is one course design. There are several course designs we are providing. So this is here you will find the box scar plot, and here you will find the this S curve. Okay, and here I can show you that is how the box scar plot can provide you information about which type of learning that is the syllabus and other things which are better and which are not better. So here you will find that is this is the exercise, and it is very easy. So people are moving directly to the top competency level very easily by using the box scar plot.
Excellent.
Now another thing that is now here you will find the different type of outliers about the maximum as well as the minimum point. And you will find that is the people are at the same this level. That means this particular course is very much difficult for them. So in this way, you can apply the box scar plot. This is my published paper. So I like to share in this connection. I think Professor Subrata Saha is here. So Professor Saha, can you moderate? Hello, well, Professor Saha, are you here?
Yes, yes, Dr. Datta.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Roy. Yes, here I first congratulate our speaker, Dr. Mukherjee, for his illuminating and thought-provoking presentation. He has given many information, and at the same time, not only information, rather he used this information and techniques in practice, and he has given some of the live data structure in support of his statement. In my opinion, what I feel, this learning analytics, it is a kind of technology based and software oriented new technique of providing assistance and assessment. So my point is that in case of Andragogy, it is working and it may have a plan or it may have some design. But in case of pedagogues who are not very much, oriented with this online system and gadget systems, even in case of Andragogy also, those who are willing to learn, but they are not actually accustomed with these online learning systems and assessment. My point is that there are two types of group learners. One, a kind of individual learner, by individual individual study, they are acquainted with the system. They have their kind of advantages and limitations also. Again, another group of students are there who are not acquainted with, and they have their also advantages and disadvantages also. Then how this learning analytics will work for those who are not actually come under the purview this of online assessment system or software system, number one. Number two, is it more individualistic and diagnostic in nature, or it is a kind of, it has some group applicability, which in the form of module, a teacher or practitioner can use in the classroom or use in his practice? These two things, if made clear, then I feel it is nothing like it is a kind of learning analytics. Simply this type of clarifications or simple information that may substantiate the whole issue. This is my observation. Thank you, Dr. Rai.
Thank you, Professor Saha. Dr. Mukherjee, will you say a few words about the observation of Professor Shah?
Yes, yes, I definitely love to. Very, very valid points made. I mean, sir is already a senior veteran into this domain. That's, as I said, I'm a new entrant, so it's a very good observation. But sir, I'd like to submit here that learning analytics is basically a continuous process, because we work on longitudinal data, and as and when the data gets accumulated, it is easier for the analyst to comment one student's learning behavior.
That's true.
Now, what happens if I can compare with the class average? So the complexity measure is always calculated there. So if I'm teaching a class of 30, and then I can the class average is scoring around 60%, and the student is doing over and above the class average or below, so therefore I can take appropriate measures to detect that. And it is a diagnostic in nature and also in assistive also. What happens? I'm diagnosing that the student is at level A, B, C, or D, and then I'm not stopping there. I'm advising them that he should be from D to C, C to B, B to A kind of category he should be growing. And then I'm going ahead with individual. That's what we call it in education 4.0, personalization. So I am trying to suggest personalized learning prescriptions, which I may not give it to the other students. For example, in my class, if I find that some student is, I teach IT, management information system, I find that some student is not knowing about basics of operations or basics of computer operations, I can give him a study material to read that, and then come back next day with some bit of, in a better position, in a better learning experience. So likewise, those interventions are there, and it is purely blended in nature. It is not that only computer, that student is engaging with the computer. His footprints are captured in the backyard and shared with the mentor and the counselor. Here the role of a counselor is important, and I missed that point, that majority of our government institutions, they do not have a counseling system, and I hope you would agree to the fact that students these days need more counseling than teaching, because they are in the matured age and they need some bit of a counseling process what they should be doing. And then if that data is shared with the counselor is also in a position to prescribe that what he should be doing, and then accordingly that progression takes place. So you are trying to assist the student achieving his dream. So that way it is going in a continuous process, and analytics is giving you the relevant information on your tips, which otherwise you would have to drill down to the documents and figure it out. But right now, every simple information, starting from his first test in the first semester, first day, the engagement till that period of time he or she spends in the class is available on your tips, and you can pivot it as many as you want. Like I think Dr. Dattarai has talked about the box plotting. Yes, a very powerful tool. I can find out with that how he or she is faring with the class, how, and depending on the criticality. On difficult subjects, if somebody is doing good, easy subject somebody is doing bad, so that will, there needs some counsel. There is some imbalance that is there. So therefore, analytics is always it's diagnostic in nature, always is assistive. Both role it is playing, and they are giving the individual learning experience with a lot of personalization into it. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Mukherjee.
Thank you.
Dr. Shahab, Professor Subrat Shahab, this is my observation.
Yeah.
So we can think of the learning analytics counselor.
Good. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said.
Learning analytics counselor is very important.
Yeah.
At least from this webinar, based upon this talk, possibly we can think of the new employment, that is the learning analytics counselor. What is your observation, Professor Mukherjee?
Yeah,
learning analytics counselor.
Yeah, we can give a new nomenclature to the position. Is indeed, but role of counselor is important, and I have seen in my university also we have a counselor, but when it comes to counseling a student, the counselor also needs the student's data. which is most of the cases it is unavailable. So therefore, the fruitful counseling never happens. And whatever data is available, it is the judgment of the teacher, judgment of the parents. So that is not a data, it is an opinionated view.
Right, right, right. In fact, unless our system is, the upgrade to this complex adaptive system, the appointing anybody can't give anything good. The systems to be upgraded first, and then we can think of all these things. Isn't so?
Sir, I'll give you one small example. There is a private university. I hope some of you would be knowing, Lovely Professional University.
Yes.
Yeah, we know. We know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the India's first paperless university. And the uniqueness of this university is that every single details that is on record on digital form. So a student does not need to go to the university to seek the migration. Now you would be knowing in Calcutta University or my Tripura University, if somebody needs admission outside and needs a migration, what kind of pain one has to go through, and series of documentation has to go through. So for them, counselor, I have seen, because one of my friends used to be a counselor there. So she just need a laptop and start the student enrollment number. Complete details flashes on the screen straight away. And even if there is some complaint against the student, behavioral traits, everything is recorded and captured. So the complete mapping of students' progression during the 4 year of engineering or 2 year of MBA or any other program is captured there. So people have started working to it. I think we need to sensitize our policymakers little more to understand the efficacy of this, where we can help our students. It is the help they would need from us apart from teaching. So that's what my take would be, that we should be, be more sensitive towards the cause, and we take decisions based on the data, and rather than getting feedback. How many have said good morning to me? How many have not said so? So that should not be the criteria for determining a student's ability.
Right.
Wow, beautiful.
Well said. Well said.
Good observation. So data capturing is very important, presently.
Yes,
because so I think our institute, Ravindra Psychotherapy Research Institute, Trust, is developing different type of courses on the data mining, and we have already given some of the knowledge about the data mining through the MS Excel, so that the students can easily access the MS Excel and they can understand how to analyze the data by using the pivot. And we have invited some of the speakers of Niti Aayog. So they have given this knowledge along with me. So we are trying at our best, but what is important, that is a data capturing, and that is very vital. Particularly, this is my impression, that is, and what data we'll capture. That is the data capturing, that is the thing, is what data we have to capture and what will be our objective. Basically, our objective is to assist our learner, assist the teachers, assist the authorities to design the course in such a manner so that more students can engage, more students can employ their valuable time for the course. Instead of moving here and there, they will get all the information from the same course. That is very vital. So thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. I think there are many speakers, there are many distinguished professors are here. So, so anyone, any observation? Professor Kamaluddin sir, are you here? So,
Yes, sir, I am here.
Yes, sir. So please you share your observation.
Basically, I observed the entire presentation, and that was very, very fantastic. And it is very insightful as well. As you started with saying, involving learning analytic counselor, it is already built within the domain of school psychology. School psychologists work in the school from KG to 12th grade, and their services are based on database decision making. As Professor Subroto Shah also pointed out, that it is a learning analysis, and in my view, definitely it is a kind of analysis, and this analysis is purely based on data, but that data is very difficult to gather in most cases. And in India and Bangladesh context, we have so many students in a class. If you are working on data, you will be busy with the data, and how to implement this database decision is difficult in this context, because whenever you are going to suggest that this is implemented for this group of students, this will be implemented for this group of students, the authority will not pay heed to. So basically, what I understood from his presentation, he has done a very uh, good analysis of learners' perspectives. All learners are not learning in the same way. So if you focus on certain procedures to teach, or you are going to grade them in the same way, then you are actually uh, doing some injustice to a certain group of students. So it is really appreciated, and definitely in psychology we know individualized educational plan, IEP. Why IEP is important? When you're going to look at students in your class, you as a teacher, as you know, your brain hemisphere has 4 lobes, and you are dominated in one part. So you are expecting the same way from your students, but students are diverse. So you are focusing on a certain way of teaching, certain way of uh, assessing, but you are not considering the other way around. That is the problem with the teacher, because teacher is not an omnibus or versatile. So if there is a team teaching in class and teachers are diverse in their abilities, they can easily figure out which student should be treated which way, and you can get best out of them. Otherwise, a single fixed method which we adopt in the classroom on a regular basis, that jeopardizes lives of some very talented students in their early stage. So I think the learning analytics has given us an insight to think the problem in a very good way. I think we can be benefited if we can think of using his strategy. I appreciate this presentation, because sometimes we read books written by some commerce faculty or business studies teachers, even though their terminology seems to be very remote, because we, the teachers of psychology or education, do not use these technical terms. Despite that, the terms can be used in a befitting way in terms of education and psychology, but the logic behind his presentation is very clear, very accurate, very sophisticated. I think we should follow his presentation, and we can adopt in our teaching as well. We will be definitely benefited using this strategy. Thank you, Dr. Devorshi Mukherjee, for your nice presentation, and thank you, Dr. Abdullah Datturai sir, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.
Okay, so is there any other person who can share? Ivan, you have done some work on learning analytics, right? Ivan? Ivan is from Tripura University, Tripura. Ivan, are you here? No. Okay, Shubhayan, you are the student of Dr. Mukherjee. So what are the researches are going on in Tripura University on learning analytics?
Professor Dr. Datturai.
Yes, yes.
Would you please allow me to leave, as I am busy? I will be busy with some other meeting also right now.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Definitely, we'll be in touch with you in near future.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you, all participants. And it is nice, and it is my pleasure to be with you at 1.5 hours with you. And I have learned many things from you. And I like to congratulate you, the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you, Professor Shah. Okay, Dr. Mukherjee, what are the courses are going on in learning analytics in the Tripura University? Anything you'd like to share?
Right now, as a learning analytics, we are not offering any teaching course, but only PhD program is going on. Ivan, I know Ivan is a very hardworking guy. He is doing PhD under Ranjana Bhattacharya of Tripura University. He has contributed an article in my own book also. And Subhayan is doing PhD and again in the domain of learning analytics. Ranjit is working on complex adaptive system. There are a few more scholars who could not join today. One is from Bangladesh. Again, he is working on meta literacy and metacognition. So right now, what we are trying to do, we are trying to quantify the learning gain measurement, because another scholar is there, Anjana, who could not join. She is due to submit on learning gain measurement. And primarily what we are trying to do, we are trying to devise a scale for that learner matrix which you have created. That is the task for Subhayan to do. That if you are able to design that scale, that scale, I'll share it with the teachers. They can, using that scale, they can measure the students' growth. And it does not need to be on technology, but that simple scale will give some idea that the entire cohort, where does it stand actually? How many of them are in the matured category? How many of them are in the induced category? So, and that test could be administered the span of time, a different interval of time, to measure that whether the students are progressing, the matured quadrant is getting more population or not. This exercise is for Shubhayan to do. Ranjit is working on the role of computer adaptive system or different stakeholders of CAS in learning gain, and whether the learning outcome is have been influenced by the different elements. So we has the strong influence. So in regression, we are using automatic modeling. Using automatic modeling, we are trying to calculate the weight of the individual IVs. This is one exercise that Ranjit is trying to investigate. Anjana did the effect of culture on learning gain. So that is one interesting part, because cultural studies have not been done. So using Hofstede scale, she is about to complete her work actually. So on because Tripura is a multicultural, multi-ethnic society. So how different students are reacting towards learning, that is the part. And Somen, I think he has worked on healthcare management, a different part on learning. But primarily, these are the 3 or 4 works, and another student is going to join. He would be working on the technological aspects of learning in rural education. So this is the overall scheme of things going on right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. Achha, Dr. Mukherjee, this is my idea. I do not know whether it happens or not. This IQAC program usually happened in the different colleges throughout the India, and the NAC data. So can we apply this NAC data and the IQAC program data for this learning analytics?
That can be done depending on the kind of data we are getting, because NAC data, it is some it's longitudinal though, because 5 years data we are trying to capture, but then it's a group data, not on individual basis. So it might not give you what you are looking at. In learning analytics, you need in students individual data.
Achha,
and that too over a period of time. And from that period of time, you intend to work on them, you tend to capture them, and you tend to develop your own model over it. For NAC data, it's basically a group data, departmental data, institutional data, and collective one. That might just not help. So what will help here is basically you train the LMS accordingly if the students needs to submit. So that you have to create a methodology. Every student needs to submit the assignment on due time. Every student has to appear for test. Every student needs to participate in discussion thread, and that data you can download and work on it. So gradually, you will be seeing a lot of data would be revealed, which otherwise is not known. That's what I said. One student I thought was a very good one, but when I saw the results, the marks, the discussion participants, I find this kind of disengaging for him to be a student like that. So this is the way I think we should be working on. And you need to train the LMS. That is the most important.
So it is totally individual data.
Yes, yes, yes.
It is totally individual data. Okay. Okay. So I think psychometric has a lot of the scope, particularly on this learning analytics. This is my perception. When you are
Yes.
talking about the Hofstede model,
Yeah.
I can give you another model, that is the Rabindric value system model that I have developed.
Great. Yeah, you told.
You can apply this model particularly for your purpose.
No,
So
surely,
any other observation from Shagota, Dakshani, Sravanti, Ambori, Step, Ranjit, Devnath, Pooja, Musharraf Ali? Any other observation? Urbi Datto? Hello, are you here?
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So, yes, what I had observed is that the procedures which sir has laid down, and one thing which he mentioned, that we are bound to follow the constraints which are laid down by our institute. So in small institutions, for example, in small organizations, in case of schools, we are bound to follow always. The limitations are always there, that we cannot go beyond the limitations which are laid down by the institution. So I mean, the institution I am attached with presently, I find there's lack of chance for teachers to go for innovations, because the institute lays down some norms, and all the teachers have to abide by such norms. So here there is hardly any chance for analyzing the student beyond the strategies that the institution lays down. So in that case, what is the scope? Is there any scope for a teacher who is especially inspired by these new notions in the field of education?
Yes, there are multiple scope for you. I think Urbi, okay, fine. Urbi, see, if you are teaching in a school, so I say you must be conducting tests, right? So
Yes,
you must
sir.
be taking class tests, the summative assessments, formative. Because my wife is also a school teacher. I see how engrossed she is. Even if you are working in a private school, then I must tell you that you are doing a great job, because I could see her, the kind of labor she has to go through. And but despite that, since you asked this question, the tests that you are taking, what you could possibly do, I mean, if there is no LMS in your school, you can capture them into an Excel file, and you keep on doing that. So in I think in your one batch, or maybe one quarter, you may be taking 3 or 4 tests. So if you can capture them, that would give us you at least some bit of an idea about, and you can put it in the form of a curve. The class average is very simple to do. You can do a study on how one student is faring with the class average. You can get the standard deviation with. So you can identify the good student. I mean, one thing is that your own idea imagination. Second one is about the capturing of details. So likewise, if every teacher does that across all subjects, so you can get a fairly graph of one student's growth. I don't know if it's possible or not, if the faculty members are willing to do so. In case of and the absence of a centralized system, very difficult to get, because you need to do a lot of exchange of information. But if possible, in your subject also, you can see the previous year vis-a-vis this year, vis-a-vis next year. If you can compare with them, and you can always see how students are faring in your class. One thing you would be seeing, that the class average, this is the rule of thumb, will increase with each year. It is not that you are awarding more marks, it is that you are maturing with time. So the pedagogy you adopt, that also evolves with time, and your experiential learning is able to help you to bind students more effectively than the last year, and then the last year, and the last year. So with each year, you are also developing. So this is the way you can find the class average shooting up. This is one measure. And there are other applications are there, capturing their marks, evaluating them, comparing, pivoting them. That also you can do in your own limit. I mean, if there is no such standard 2 level. And also, if you are comfortable in technology, you can go with the Google or the Moodle web platform, web browser-based Moodle, which allows you free of cost access to analytics for about 50 students. I don't know if the student is more than that. You can exercise them, you can learn it. It's a free of cost application, and you can monitor their growth. Don't take tests like that. You can take online tests if the school allows you to do so using Moodle, and then you can see, and all assignments, if you allow them to submit online, you can evaluate them and you can finally track their growth. So options are there, but it would again need you extra hours of effort.
Thank you, sir.
So is there any other observation? Hello?
I don't think so. Some comments were there in the chat box. Okay, people are.
Sir, I had another question. Could I ask?
Sure. Urvi, please introduce yourself. You have not introduced yourself.
Okay, sir, certainly. Sir, I'm Urvi Datta. I'm presently associated with the CBSE-based school in the district of Purulia, and I've been giving them English classes from classes 4 to 9. And presently, I am pursuing an MEd course from Pailan College of Education. It's my first semester. And I've also done my BEd from the same institute, Pailan College of Education. And about today's webinar, I have got the link from Dr. Prathita Biswas. She happens to be one of my mentors in this course of MEd. So it was really an enriching session for me. And the present question of mine is that for the past 1.5 years, we teachers of CBSE-based schools had been attending CBSE webinars, which are being conducted by CBSE CEOs. So I had attended one of such webinars on Lean Six Sigma. So since this is my question, that I have also heard that Lean has come into the field of education, but the mentor over there in the webinar had said that probably your school doesn't know what Lean Six Sigma is. And you have to probably initiate what Lean Six Sigma is into their brains. So my question is, how effective will it be if since I have done white and yellow belt, but I haven't pursued for the exams. So how effective would it be for me in my career if I give the exams and if I complete the layers? So should would it be that I will have to struggle and battle with my institute to make them know that what Lean Six Sigma actually is? Or is that Sigma is already known about in the field of education by people? I would want to know it, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Datta. Prathita Madam is a very good mentor. And I have also received some of the support from Professor Prathita Biswas Madam repeatedly. And thank you, Dr. Datta, for your question. I think Dr. Mukherjee will say a few words about the Six Sigma because it is related to the statistical quality control. I do not know how statistical quality control will be applied in school management. Dr. Mukherjee?
Yeah, actually, it is a relatively new concept. It's about the process improvement primarily talks about. There are, processes are not standardized. So Six Sigma, I think in your CBSE curriculum, you must, your webinars, you must have seen that how processes needs to be improved, because primarily Lean Six Sigma is primarily done from the manufacturing part, where then factories, they have improved on the process implementation. Sir, statistics is very much integral part to this activity where you take regular monitoring about your processes. But firstly, to set the ball rolling, you need to create a SOP, standard operating procedures of all processes, exam processes. These are not documented processes anymore. Likewise, you have PhD regulation university, that's documented process. But exam, how to conduct exam, how to open the semester, how to close the semester, how do you conduct the classes, teaching allocation, load distribution, every such minor functions, they do not have any documentation. And it's a strange thing that even after 70 years of our independence, we have not been able to generate a document which can guide a student. Like any new inductee into the curriculum, they are not given any document that how should they be conducting themselves. It's only the seniors who guide them. There's more of a judgmental in nature. Therefore, the process documentation is very, very important part where one institution needs to be, standardized in their own form. Like when I joined the university, there was none to tell me how should we teach a class. It's all my own wisdom that I am applying here. But then in your B.Ed program, you have been taught because that's a documented process. Similarly, for the school management, their process should be documented. So if you have cleaned this steel green belt, I said you must clear the examination. That gives you a standing for your authority. And with that authority, you can speak to your school administration, ask them that you are the person who is going to lead this thing. And I hope in all sanity, the school principals must agree to it. But if they don't do it today, they have to do it tomorrow. Because I give you my own example. When I was doing my research in e-learning way back in 2003, and I went to a conference to a very reputed institution. I will not name it. The very senior professors were there. Some of them are in senior government positions these days. So they made fun of me. They said, what is you are talking about? It's absolutely piece of crap. Why should people go teach online? And I don't know, you are wasting your time here. So anyway, I was, but I did not relent. I kept on working and see, we are here today, we are talking about learning analytics and everybody is taking the cognizance of the fact. So somebody has to set the ball rolling, somebody has to start it. But I'm very happy that you have taken this onus on yourself. You have cleared the examination. I see a bright future. And tomorrow you become a consultant to other schools also. So take the plunge. That would be my suggestion.
কে উঠবি যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে।
Exactly.
স্যার এটাই আমিও বলতে যাচ্ছিলাম।
দেখো কিভাবে একলা চলরে করে আজকে উনি লার্নিং অ্যানালিটিক্স এর প্রফেসর হয়ে গেলেন এবং একটা সময় উনার কথা কেউ শুনতো না। আমাদের আবিন্দিক সাইকোথেরাপিও সেরকমই ব্যাপার, একটা সময় কেউ শুনতো না, এখন প্রচুর আমার কাছে রিকোয়েস্ট আছে শিখবো 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 করে। কিন্তু একটা টাইম ছিল যখন রাবিন্দিক সাইকোথেরাপি শোনার মতো লোক ছিল।
আচ্ছা,
যাই হোক ভীষণ ভালো লাগছে যে I think I can speak Bengali also because many people are Bengali. So
thank you sir.
Okay. Sanskriti, you are in the field of education.
Yes sir.
Any idea? Yes, any idea, anything you want to add something about?
Sir, now I have no idea actually.
Okay. This is okay because it is a new thing.
Yes, yeah. Sir.
Yeah. So very much expected.
Thank you, sir.
Musharraf Ali. Hello, Musharraf Ali. I think there is no other question. So I am requesting Monalisha, please start the concluding prayer. Monalisha, are you here? Okay. So please close your hands for the concluding prayer. So I am requesting all of you. Please close your hands. Purnamada Purnamidang Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti. I'm requesting all of you. Please fill up the feedback form. I have given the feedback form in the chat box. Please fill it up so that you will get the certificate. And I hope 53rd webinar will give you something new concept, new avenues for research. Thank you all. So now I am closing the session.
Thank you.